Hi, guys. Welcome to the Creative Block Podcast. I'm Vince Gonzalez. I've been waiting to have this conversation for a very long time. I'm here with someone I am proud to consider a great friend, Lori Tucker. Lori's career includes work as an international fashion model, appearing in multiple fashion magazines. She's walked the runways of Paris, Milan, London, and Los Angeles, has appeared in over 75 national commercial spots and multiple iconic 80s and 90s music videos, such as LA Guns, Rick James, Bob Seger, Roger Waters, and the 1984 groundbreaking Friday Night Videos and MTV favorite, Hot for Teacher by Van Halen, just to name a few. Lori is currently still working as a print and commercial model, and is a advocate of animal rights and vegan lifestyle, and an active supporter of fundraisers such as the Patrick Warburton Celebrity Golf Tournament for St. Jude's Children's Hospital and the St. Martin's Animal Foundation. I myself have had the pleasure of working with you, Lori, on multiple campaigns for a brand here in Los Angeles called P. Taylor Clothing Company. We got to shoot editorial and lookbooks together. And I have to tell you that I'm really glad I didn't know this background when we first started working. I didn't know your background because I would have been completely intimidated to pick up a camera and stand in front of you. So you've been an amazing person to work with. I don't know. We've done 4 or 5 shoots together, I think, for Priscilla.
Yeah, at
and
least.
It's just been a party every time. And, you bring this great energy and optimism and positivity that's just infectious. So I really, really loved and look forward to working with you. And hopefully we could do it again. But
yes, love that.
But thank you for being on the show. And I hope you're doing well. It's a little gray and cool out here in LA, but we'll make the best of it. So Lori, tell me, you've worked in some iconic places, been in some incredible campaigns and been on some amazing runways. Tell me about how that career started and what the experience was like for you.
Well, it was a little bit of a different kind of a start to my career because out here, you remember the department stores, Montgomery wards?
Yeah.
We called them monkey wards.
Yes.
And I was about, I think 12 or 13 at the time. And probably around 12. And they had this little club that you could join called the Paysetter Club. And what they would do is it was kind of a community thing, and you could go in and you would do tea room modeling. You'd get clothes from like the women's department or the, kids department, and you would model in front of their patrons in their little cafe. I remember one time in the sheet and blanket department, they gave us each a set of sheets and said, kind of make a garment out of it. So I had a neighbor that actually sewed a garment together, and then we would pose in front of that when there was a sale. And, people would come by and be like, buy the sheets. But it was such it was an odd thing for a department store to do, but a really wonderful thing. And that's kind of how it got started. So through their fashion shows, and they had little contests, I started meeting photographers, mostly some young beginners. And so I started shooting with them, and they had mentioned to me that there were a lot of photographers out there that needed pictures for their book, and then I could get pictures for my book for portfolio, and trade work back and forth, usually for free or just the cost of the film. I actually used to film at the time.
Yes.
And so I was recommended to go to the Pasadena Art Center, the art school there, and I got a list of photographers willing to test, and I just started making phone calls and borrowing, because I didn't have a car at the time yet, borrowing one of the multiple cars I had 6 brothers, my dad, and usually we had 3 or 4 cars that they were working on in different levels of working order, with different parts off. And yep. So, I'd grab my dad's 1960 Dodge van, I would grab a green Pinto, grab a Volkswagen, and, take off. And I would usually bring a little brother or sister with me, and go to the, downtown LA, Santa Monica, Pasadena, and, I'd bring some of my own clothes, or sometimes they would have some fashion stuff there, and we'd do pictures. And I slowly started to build my book like that, and ended up working for a photographer out here named Richard Armis, and he was really the first person to use me for work and get paid, and for magazines and local papers, newspapers and things like that. And he was working for things like the LA Times and the Daily News. And finally went to go see when I felt like I had enough in my book, went to go see an agency out here, which was Mary Webb Davis. She was already really old at the time, and we kind of called her the ghost of Christmas past.
Oh my God.
She was like 80 something. She'd walk through the agency. But some great bookers there. And and through that, I started doing some commercial work as well. But agent had come from Paris and wanted to see some girls, and saw him, and he said, "Oh, when do you want to come?" It was like November, and he said, "Can you come next month?" And I said, "Oh, I want to stay home for Christmas. So I ended up going to Paris with a big Foot Locker. This is when you can take a Foot Locker on an airplane, not pay extra, full of all the wrong clothes for January. And we were poor. I had like
Yeah.
$40 on me, but the agent, spoke with my parents, and of course it's going through my agency, which is completely legitimate. And they'd already had girls back and forth there. And so they give you a flight. I landed in Paris on like January 5th of 1979. And that was a cultural shock. I knew how to say a few little things in French. My dad knew a little bit of French, but nothing prepares you for a Parisian to speak French to you. It's a little different. But so my first trip there was to Les Deux Alpes, which is in Grenoble, France, where they had some of the Olympics for Adidas. And it was snowing. And so, of course, because it was snowing, and it was the spring summer catalog, they thought we should do bathing suits and sportswear in the snow. And that's what we did. And with tennis shoes on to make it look, and no socks to make it look like we were standing in the snow.
Wow.
And basically we were. Yeah. And they would take us up on, snow flurries in a helicopter and just drop us down there.
Wow.
I froze to death. This California Valley girl just froze to death, but it was an amazing experience. And the next job I got was to the Maldive Islands. And that was for bathing suits, very appropriate. That was fitting, at least. And that was about 10 days of the most incredible place I've ever been in my life. I landed in Sri Lanka, Ceylon, Colombo, went on to the main island of Mali, and then a boat to one of the islands, and shot there, and then shot back in, on the mainland, for a few days, and just an incredible trip. Though, yeah. Pretty much
amazing.
the best thing. Yeah. So got home and started working. There, when you go to Europe, you a big part of going is working there. They have so many amazing photographers and magazines, and the magazine quality is amazing. So you work, you don't make a super lot of money, but you come home with a great book in the hopes to make money here in America. So that's, pretty much what I did. And
I would imagine that coming back from Europe, having even just being there, gave you some cachet when you came back.
Oh, definitely. Like I said, having a book with amazing photos, is way better than just kind of flying by the seat of your pants. And but
okay, so let's name drop a little bit. What are some of the magazines?
Oh, I've shot for French Vogue, Italian Vogue.
Wow.
I just found something here.
Let's see
if I can find it. This is so after I went to Paris the first time, I came back. I was home for about a year and a half, started doing, a lot of commercials and things as well. And then I went back to Europe for another 2.5 years. So I was in Munich for a year, Hamburg about 6 months, Milano, Italy for about 10 months, a little bit in Zurich. Yeah, it was great. So like, here's the German Cosmopolitan.
Wow.
And so this is like one of the
Look at that
things. It's all about long hair, longish hair. I had a longish hair, Vince. So they just did hair in different ways. And
so what was that education like? Because the thing that I noticed about you, having had a variety of people in front of the camera taking stills, some people are really good looking and they're unfamiliar with being in front of the camera, and if you don't direct them well, it doesn't matter how good looking they are, they just look awkward. And when I met you and we picked up the camera and I shot frame one, it was almost like I didn't even need to be there. I mean, you just had this ability to understand your body presence, how you were in front of the camera. It's almost like you were me. You understood what I was looking at. How long did that take? What's that?
I was saying, interesting you say that, because one of the first people I did a testing with, I had brought my mom with me.
Good.
It was a photographer, and we started to take pictures, and he said, the most cliche thing ever, I want you to pretend you're at home by yourself and you're looking in the mirror and you're looking at all your angles and what you think you look best. How you look best. Don't be embarrassed. I'm not here, and just look at the camera like it's the mirror. And that literally clicked in my head, and that was it. And it helped me immensely to just zone out that the photographer's there and the 100 people standing around, and that helps on, of course, sets of commercials and everything, that, kind of being in the moment with yourself and the photographer. So that's pretty much it. And then, of course, over time, working with a lot of photographers and doing a lot, then you end up, kind of figuring out how your body looks best, and, posing and angles and things like that as well. So it's kind of just a combination of some good advice and doing it a lot.
Doing it a lot. Yeah. I mean, it was obvious you were such a pro, and, it was you and Brandy, Brandy, when we worked together with her, she was also the same. She was just like, pop, 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 I could have just held up the camera and hit the shutter, and everyone was good. I was like, there was no direction. You know what I mean? You were just already had a sense of what you were doing. Thank
you.
Yeah. And it's not as easy as it looks. I mean, everybody thinks they want to do it, and then,
right.
It's just not that easy. And you were very, very skilled at, imagining the whole frame, you in the frame, and making all that make sense. And it was a blast to work with you, because it was just so much fun.
Thank you.
And let's talk about your Polaroid collection, because I was at your house many years ago, and we were talking about concert ticket stubs, and you had shown me some, and then that turned into a conversation about Polaroids. And if anybody doesn't know what a Polaroid is, Google it. But you, back in the day, we used to, and I would do this too, because I learned on film. Right. You would set up a shot, you would light the shot, and before you went through thousands of dollars of film, you would either shoot a Polaroid, or you would load a Polaroid back I had a Nikon, so I had a Polaroid back on the back of my Nikon, and we would get to see what the shot looked like before we actually started, 40 rolls of film. And you smartly still have a lot of those, don't you?
Yes. So I, on the print jobs, I would always steal the photographer's Polaroids. And as you said, set up all the lighting, take an hour to do that, and all through time checking lighting, the photographer would take a Polaroid, and it would there'd be like 10 or 20 on the ground, and just kind of nab those things. So I actually have in the back of one of my portfolios, I cut them and I put them into like a slide sheet. Neat. So I have those, but something else I did on some of the print jobs, but really a lot of the music videos and commercials, I had my own Polaroid camera, and I would take those. I took that around with me everywhere. Unfortunately, I really, really wish I would have had it on Van Halen's Hot for Teacher, because I would have loved to have some Polaroids from that, but nobody was allowed to take any pictures except for Nils Lozauer, which is their, god of rock photography, every album cover, every magazine, all through the years. And I heard that the young Eddie, Brian Hitchcock, had gotten a couple Polaroids, so I was really jealous to find that. It's like, damn, I could have snuck it, but didn't want to break any rules. So so I have some here. Like, this is, I did a lot of commercials. Here's a Coca-Cola commercial. So this is myself and another one of the girls. So we were shot in Malibu, and we were like Baywatch, dressed like Baywatch girls, because Baywatch was huge at the time. Right. And here's the group of us. How 80's is this? Hello.
I love that. That's cool.
Right? Super, super 80s. Some of them have gotten so dark, but here's the set of Miller. You remember Light Up the Night? Michelob Light commercials?
Oh, yeah.
Did one of those, and here's some of us just waiting. I think, do I have curlers in my hair or something? We're just waiting to be. And this is Paula Abdul, who was our choreographer for it, because she's the little one there. So cool. In the commercial, they would often use my height, because I'm 5'11", to kind of do a thing where use a shorter guy, and like in this, I was dancing over him like that. And I have one Domino's pizza or Certs where I kick over another guy's head because he's used a little guy. And I kind of want to just show you the not so glamorous side of commercials. So this was for Dial soap. It was called Neutrel. It was a new soap of theirs. So we had to go to a special effects lab for a month, and they made a statue out of me. So we had to do it in segments, and they had to cast my head, cast my legs, cast my arms. So here is my head cast.
Wow.
With just 2 little holes in the nose. I was not claustrophobic at the time, but I will tell you, for the first few minutes, I was like, whoa. Got a little, here's the side view.
That's crazy.
Right? Isn't it crazy? Here is me under the table. So there's the bust of me. I'm under the table with my hand up on the bust, and they put like a casting over it. So what would do is they do some monofilament and pull some of that off, and then my fingers would come out of it. So in the commercial, the soap is taking away all the dead skin and aging.
Wow.
And that was me next to the bust of me. That was not a bust. That was a full statue of me.
Wow.
Crazy.
Before they had digital imaging, they were taking
They were really doing it.
Of everybody.
Really doing it. And it's funny because it was a special effects lab. They did horror movies, everything. And I remember looking up at their calendar for the month. It was this big thing, and it was handwritten in, and it said, Monday, severed hand in bucket. Tuesday, severed head on post. Wednesday, it's like, what? You don't see this every day. I went in there and I put like Thursday lunch with the president, things like that. Just like goof around.
That's awesome.
Here's the certs. But well, that's some of that. TV wise, here's a little photo from the, what do you call it? Airwolf.
Oh, Airwolf.
So we're playing models in the whole thing. It was like a little mini movie, Airwolf, a little extended version on an airplane. But I do also have a number of Polaroids. They've gotten very dark over time. I just found this. This is my brother Tommy and I, Randy Quaid, Cousin Eddie.
Yeah.
And myself, Christmas Eve at my sister's house, at my brother's house.
Wow.
Used to hang out with him, met him at our, it's such a great guy, met him at a acting, what do you call it? Theater league.
Workshop.
And we would do scenes and things. Yeah, we'd do scenes and stuff, and he'd come and watch them and things like that. And we became really good friends, and met his mom, and of course Dennis, when he was with PJ Souls, things like that. But my parents gave Randy's 6'5", and he's a big boy. And my parents gave him a sweater, and I'm sure my mom got an extra large, but Randy put it on and kept it on, and it was like up to here on him. And the sleeves were up to here. He kept it on. He was drinking hot chocolate with this.
Oh my God.
I hope I got a Polaroid of that somewhere. I'm still finding all my stuff. So here's a Polaroid from did LA Guns Sex Action music video, which was a really incredible video to work on. It was just a classic, Hollywood.
Oh yeah.
Video. So this is from one of my Polaroids. So that's Kelly and Phil, Mick Grips, and Steve. Crazy. Unfortunately, Tracy's not in that one. Here's Roxanne and I. We were the 2 girls in it with Kelly Nichols. And somebody off the set. Don't know who that was, but He's like, can I have a picture with you guys?
Yeah.
So here's, I did something with Bob
Right.
Seger.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's just my little Polaroid. That was a very fun one to work on as well.
You ever
Yeah,
work with a guy
so-
named Marty Callner?
Gosh, why does that sound so familiar?
So
What does
Marty
he
Callner
do?
was he was a big hair band music video director around that same time, and my best friend's dad was like his second AD, and so he did Turn Back Time with Cher. He did a bunch of Bon Jovi, and we were on the set of Love in an Elevator with Aerosmith.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And there's 4 frames of me in the background of Love in an Elevator. And
Yay!
so it was around that same time, it was like, LA Guns is a great one to mention because it was the height of that sort of rock hair band era.
Right, Sunset
Motley
Strip.
Crue,
Right.
Guns N' Roses were coming out later.
Yep.
There's all these LA bands that were
Yeah.
happening, right before grunge triggered. Yeah, that was a fun experience. And,
Yeah.
I was watching the photographer shooting film, shooting tons of Polaroids. I actually, we should sit down because I actually have quite a few pictures from that set because I just took a point and shoot and I went nuts. We were there at the Sony lot for like 3 days. I was like,
Right.
like a year out of high school. I'm like going out of my mind,
Oh my God. Yeah, I can imagine.
It
Great
was pretty
set to be on.
fantastic. But there was such a, it was the height of the music video era. You
It
know what I
really
mean?
was.
And so it was like
really
this
was.
different energy that you can't have now because everything's really, there'd be rumors of a music video coming out and their anticipation of it coming out and promotion of it. And then they would
Yeah.
come out and then we'd all talk about it. You can't really
Right.
do that now. It doesn't really happen because
Right. And you'd have to
Yeah.
be sitting in front of, you're like, oh, it's going to premiere on MTV at, 8:00 tonight. We have to be home. You had to be home sitting there and to watch it. It's just like with the TV shows. If you didn't watch it and then you missed the rerun in the summer, you did not see that episode. Now it's just like you just flip through, YouTube or whatever, and
Yeah.
you see everything all the time, and you can wait a year until you want to look at that music video. So it's
it was
kind of
crazy.
It was.
I
Really
had this conversation with somebody in their 20s not that long ago, and I was telling them about Thriller when Thriller came out.
Yeah.
Now, my best friend had MTV at his house at the time. So we had to figure out when it was coming on. I had to go to his house, wait for it to come on. And then, it was just like nobody, that's all we talked about was Thriller after that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You can't replicate that now because stuff that comes out, even if it kills, it's already stale the next day,
Right.
It was a really interesting time. And, you were sort of eyes on the ground, watching all of that happen,
Yeah, it was such an amazing time. It's hard to describe to people that weren't there from 78 to 93 or so. That whole the music scene, the shows, the clothes, the MTV, just everything exploded, and it was so amazing to be in the middle of that absolute electricity of the times, and it's hard to explain. And when I came back home the second time, I came home in early 84, early to mid 84. And, MTV had hit. I remember watching it a lot in Europe and seeing like Boy George, and just being gosh, just, it was mesmerizing. You could watch it like as long as it was on, you could just keep watching him. And I just started, amongst my commercial interviews and print interviews and things like that, all of a sudden I started getting music video interviews. And I've said before, Van Halen was actually my first music video interview. And then the first one I got.
Wow.
Yeah, which was super cool. And I didn't even, didn't think about it until very recently that was the first one I got. And it's great because people were asking, oh, what days did you shoot that? When was that? What year, what month, blah, blah, blah. And I ended up in my garage, or in my attic, actually, just boxes and boxes of stuff. I still need to go through things. I keep finding some really fun little gems, but I kept my call sheets. I have 2 of them. I worked 3 days, so I'm hoping to find that 3rd one. So it has, the times that, Eddie, David, Alec, and Michael are supposed to be, and us, on set, in makeup, what scenes we're shooting, the location. It was, John Marshall High School, all that. And I'm just so happy I keep them because it's just a great memory to have. And especially
that
since
is John Marshall High School,
picture.
huh? That's like, that's in my neighborhood over by Los Feliz.
Right.
Yeah, because I just looked at it today because I knew we were going to talk and I wanted to get a refresher.
That's it, yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, that is John Marshall High School.
Yeah, shot the whole thing there. I mean, Dave peeling out in front of the school. Yeah. Owner of the car was really mad.
Oh,
Wasn't too happy about Dave peeling out in the car. Of course, made for a great video. Yeah, in the classrooms, the cafeteria. We shot everywhere. And then their dance scene in the auditorium or whatnot. So. Yeah,
That's incredible.
Pretty cool. So,
because I remember, we were all watching that music come out, and that particular music video. And this is why we're still talking about it. Is that song, that video had a strong sense of who the audience was. Like we at our age group were looking at that and like. That we get that. We get Van Halen, we get Eddie walking on the table like that. That all clicked with us. We were like, all yes, and it was fantastic to watch. And then when I met you and you said you were in it, I was like, my head almost spin off. I was like, what? That's incredible.
I appreciated at the time. I was a huge Van Halen fan, and I've told the story before. When I went to Paris the first time, I had brought my little I was saying, I don't remember if it's a Casio or a Texas Instrument cassette player, and I had just a couple of cassettes. I had Deep Purple's Burn, then I had Van Halen with Running with the Devil and everything, and literally burned that sucker out in my cassette player. It was from home. Van Halen from Pasadena. They were my homeboys, and of course, Jamie's crying turned into, when I was very homesick and listening to it, Lori's crying, because I know Jamie. Yeah, so I literally had to go to the agency would not let us have a phone that they could call us. People could call us, but we couldn't call out, only to the agency. Like we couldn't call our folks in America because it would be astronomical, I'm sure. So we had to go around the corner to the post office, and then you had to do, reverse the charges and go into this big brown wood phone booth thing. And, I called my parents and I begged my mom to send me another Van Halen cassette because I couldn't find one there at the time.
That's amazing.
But yeah, so, pretty funny.
That's incredible. That's
so I didn't, I knew because it was Van Halen, and of course it's a Van Halen video, it's going to be cool. They just had Jump Out and Panama and, all their previous stuff. But I just didn't realize what a really iconic video in history that has turned out to be for various reasons. And I've spoken to so many music video directors and some on commercials and things like that. And they say that was their inspiration for becoming a music video director. That was their inspiration for becoming a, commercial director or whatnot, which I thought was really cool because it just was like a little mini movie. And like you said, the theme, the concept, all, and the song, of course, all become classic, and I was so happy to have been a part of it. It was an amazing experience. Like I said, loving them and getting that, I was thrilled. Had gone on the interview, had to do an improv, did my best improv of a teacher. And then we had to come back and meet the guys, and had to wear a 2-piece bathing suit. It was casting place on Wilshire. I forget the name of the casting lady. She was really nice. I'd been to her a number of times for commercials, and walked me, was just, it was just 3 of us, so walked me back, and opened the door into this teeniest room ever with David Lee Roth here, Mike Anthony, and then Eddie and Alex on the right, Van frickin' Halen. and I'm in a two-piece, and they're just sitting there looking up at me, and I had to just pass by their feet and walk to the other side of the room and turn around, and I actually shook their hands on the way. I shook all their hands, and it's funny because I don't know that they've ever had a girl in a bikini shake their hand before, professional. So nice to meet you. You know, they're like, what are you doing with my hand? Yeah. I'm shaking it. And that's what you do. Yeah. And then we chatted a little bit, and, you know, finally I go, well, that wasn't too painful. And David goes, it was for us. Typical Dave answer, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then, you know, shot for 3 days, and it was great doing the jail cell scene with Eddie on the floor and the young Van Halen behind us. And then Dave was outside of the jail cell, and got to. Yeah.
You're pushing down a little kid deserves an Oscar. That's incredible.
Poor guy.
That's amazing. And I know that, you know, certainly it's 2023, and I don't know if you could make that video now. But,
no.
You know, you know, for the time and what it was, and, you know, it was just, you know, a big part of, you know, my ability to recognize storytelling and, you know, what media was and how music and media interacted. It was a pretty important piece for me to watch as a fan.
Right.
So,
sure.
Thank you, Lori.
Yeah, sure. So welcome. I have my whips. I have my whip still. So no, I don't have it.
Wow. Well, we're going to talk about making all of that stuff of NFT collectibles. I think you could make a fortune. So now let's talk about what you're currently working on, because I saw in your bio that you are also currently working in some print. Is that true?
Yeah, you know, here and there. It's a lot of, you know, it's not bikinis and beer anymore, which I did a lot of beer. I don't know what that's all about, but anyway, I did a lot of beer commercials. But yeah, you know, here and there, it's really a side gig now, but you know, I'll do commercial, but it's so interesting because before it was all, you know, through Screen Actors Guild, went on television. They were national, did some regionals here and there, buyouts for Europe. But now it's all internet stuff. I've done probably 10 things I've never seen, you know, a lot of lifestyle photos, you know, some clothing brands where we're coming out of a store or a cafe, walking with our bags, or just for that store, and it just goes into the metaverse. I don't know, it goes somewhere. So and often they'll say, oh, don't post anything because we don't want this out before it comes out, you know. And then it comes out and you don't see it, you know. It's there somewhere. You know, I've done some stuff for PetSmart, I've done some stuff for Fitbit, you know, just all kinds of stuff, and I'll see something here and there, but yeah, it's interesting, but it's just the whole business has changed quite a bit. It's a lot
unrecognizable almost.
It is, and there's a lot of non-union, and you know, my agent now, and no pun, you know, nothing against the agency or anything, but it's just the way it is. But she'll go, oh, you got to go out for this. This is like 15 grand. Now, trust me, I would take 15,000 because I'd call back for something, you know. But that would have been the absolute crappiest commercial I ever did back in the 80s, early 90s, you know, as far as money went. Minimum was 30 grand over the course of the time it played or that year. But if you're doing, you know, 3, 4, 5 commercials at, you know, 30 to 50 grand each, yeah, it's pretty nice. Yeah. You know, and then we had our healthcare and pension and, you know, all that stuff, and we were so protected. But now it's like, yeah, we want you to work 12 hours for pizza and all the beer you can drink. How's that? You know, it's like, it's just different.
Yeah.
So it's, for me, it's not worth putting a super lot of time into. So, you know, it's, yeah.
And, you know, you have to learn a whole nother set of rules in terms of output. Like, we have friends that are making a killing on TikTok, but, you know, that's its own thing, and it has its own set of rules and why people respond and how often you post. And it's a completely different uh, you know, culture, in terms of how
It
that
is.
media is being consumed.
Right. And you are your own promoter there. You are your own advertiser for that. You do everything. You're the creative director. You're the advertiser. You're the content. It's just, it's kind of crazy. I mean, there's people that make a lot of money, but it's a full-time job for them for sure.
It's a full-time job.
It
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
is.
Even like what I'm doing here, I'm happy to, get shows recorded, edited, and posted, and
Mm,
nobody really cares unless you can get it out and get it promoted. But that's a whole nother
right.
set of work.
That's
It's
a whole nother
still
thing.
a
Yeah.
lot more work to do, but that's pretty
Yeah. And,
incredible.
and it's interesting, going on some of these interviews, it will literally say, you have to come in and you sign in and you put your name, your agency, and then it'll have a spot often saying your social media. And they want to know your Instagram or your Facebook or your TikTok because they want to see how many, followers you have. Also, I think sometimes they want to see if there's any conflict of interest, like if
Yeah.
somebody's, doing something weird on their page, they
Yeah.
don't want to be associated with
Yeah.
that. But often it's like they're expecting you to advertise their product. Hey, we're going to use this person. They have 100,000 followers.
Yeah.
If they say, hey, I did this commercial, 100,000 people for free are going to see it.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's like, wow. It's a whole
Yeah,
different
that's
ballgame.
they're looking for you to have already a built-in audience that you bring them. You know what I mean? It's kind of the
Right.
tables have been flipped.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's the way it is. So let's
Yeah.
talk about now. Let's talk about the things that you're doing and that are close to your heart now. I know you have several causes that you support, and you're vegan
Well,
now, right?
yeah, I've been vegan about 8.5 years.
And
So
was that a compassion decision, a health decision, both?
total compassion decision. Yeah. Because I think for the vast majority of the vegans that I know, they do it for the animal welfare. You know, it, a lot of people do it for their health. Those are the people that usually fall off because they look at it as a diet, and we all have those days where we're like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to have a steak today and a slab of cheesecake and I'll get back on it tomorrow. I'll go to the gym and then I'll start eating better tomorrow.
Oh
But
yeah,
when it comes to doing it for the animals and understanding what the animals go through and the reason you became vegan, you can't do it. I just can't. I will never, ever, ever, ever eat a piece of meat or have any dairy, or anything like that. And it came from, volunteering in animal rescue and, rescuing not just cats and dogs, but chickens and cows and pigs and donkeys and pigs that have fallen off a slaughterhouse truck and because they're piled high, on top of each other and they, jump out and things like that. So, something in your head just finally clicks because we know why you would take your kid to go pick apples and pick strawberries, but you would not take them to a slaughterhouse. It's horrible. And we know in the back of our heads just how horrible it is. But we, because we want to do it, we want to eat what we want. We don't, we put it in the back of our brain and we tell ourselves fairy tales about how that's how you get the milk on your table and things like that. But I just feel like, something I learned was the impact on the animals. The impact on your health is huge, obviously.
hmm
I think we all know that. And
hmm
I had no idea the impact on the planet that it
yeah,
has. Number one cause of greenhouse gases in our ruining our environment over all of transportation put together. The whole push is always, oh, you got to go electric cars, which we do. Don't use your water, don't do this, don't do that, and recycle. When in actuality, nobody wants to talk about animal farming and the
right,
methane.
right.
The waste of 2,500 cow animal dairy farm is equivalent to a city of 450,000 humans.
Wow.
That's the equivalent waste. And, the deforestation with it was like in Brazil and things like that and everywhere. They are cutting down the forest at just astronomical pace to make room to graze animals and to make room to grow crops to feed those animals. Feeding the animals the grains so we can feed 60 to 70 billion farm animals for food, and we can't feed 6.7 billion people. We could feed way
That's
more than this. We
incredible.
end world hunger, 60 4+ billion animals out there, for food farmed. So, it's just a lot. The water usage is insane. Almost half of California, and we're always in a drought here, half of the water goes to feeding farm animals. It's a fact.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
it's just, I never thought about, I didn't have a clue. But, once you
Yeah.
find
Yeah.
out and it kind of clicks in, then for me, I just want to do my part to not, supply and demand. If I don't buy this, then hope I'm saving the lives of animals, saving some water, saving this. And, it's, you just, if we all do our small part, grassroots efforts, as you've seen throughout history, have really made major impacts in different, socially, politically, and environmentally, I think, so I think we're pushing toward that. And the UN came out and said, if we want to save our planet, we need to stop eating less meat. We need to stop with the animal, agriculture. Cut way down, stop, stopping would be great. I don't see that happening, in any of our lifetimes, but, cutting way down. They said that is literally the only way, that's the UN. They're not the FDA or anything like that, just independent things. So yeah, I've done a lot of volunteering for St. Martin's Animal Foundation. The founder is Sky Valencia, and she was out here. She's since moved to Nevada to get a bigger space for her animals. We do lots of fundraising, Puppies Without Borders. We go to impoverished countries, border countries and things like that, and go and set up spay and neuter programs with the vets, because that could nip that in the bud of having thousands of starving dogs on the street, kind of get at it in the beginning before that happens, and bring a lot home, rehabilitate them, get them adopted out. And something that I work on every year, which just happened, is, I'm a mother of a cancer survivor daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Was treated here at Children's Hospital Los Angeles, but my good friend Patrick Warburton, who plays, Putty on Seinfeld and Joe on Family Guy, king of the voiceovers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he started working with St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, which is an amazing hospital, amazing foundation. Parents never have to pay for anything. Housing, food, their kids,
Wow.
treatment, their chemo, nothing. And, my daughter's spending 6 months in the hospital. I watched people lose their houses, get kicked out of their apartments, lose their jobs, because you go, some of these treatments are 6 months long, some are a year, some are 2 years. So your employers will say, hey, we got your back, you got your job, don't worry, it's here when you get back. And, 6 months later, a year later, a year and a half, they're like, we're sorry, we have to replace you. And, a parent, like a mom, the moms would stay with, because these are infants and children there. And my daughter was only 19 months old. So you don't leave them at night and go home or leave them and go to work in the day, so you're just one parent, like, picking up all the slack. So when Pat got involved with St. Jude's, I was extremely happy. They share all of their research with every hospital. And he started about 13 years ago, and I'm on the silent auction. I'm just on the auction committee. So I gather, donations and things like that. And he started off, I think, with maybe like under $200,000 or $100,000 the first year. They just did 4.7 million.
Wow.
Which, right? It just happened early in late February. I mean,
Wow.
on deserts every year, and it's a great place to donate. And they have a music jam night. Alice Cooper headlines with about 15 other amazing artists from every genre of music, mostly rock. Hall of Famers. They have a singer-songwriter night, which is country western guys come in and tell their stories, and then the big gala. And and Alice Cooper he's such a great guy, such a cool guy. He donates his
Never
time.
heard a bad thing about Alice Cooper.
Dude, the celebrity golf tournament, so he donates his time for that. So he's out golfing for 2 days, which, he loves that. He's an avid golfer. And then he headlines the music jam night. And then the night of the auction and the gala, they have a section called Give to Live. So they auctioned off a Fleetwood Mac, Mick Fleetwood donated one of the few signed guitars that they do, because they don't really sign stuff. And Christy, it was from their last tour, so Christy McVie's on there.
Wow.
He did a beautiful like testimonial about, you know, the guitar and how he hopes it brings money. And then it went for $60,000. So,
Wow.
but then there's a whole section. So there's a whole live auction for things like that. And then there's a section where it's just Give to Live, where you just donate different levels of money just for treatment for the kids. And I mean, all the money goes toward that, but this is just specific at the auction. And here, you know, Alice Cooper and his wife donated another $10,000. It's like of their own money, you know. And so he's such a stellar dude, really, really great guy. So it's a wonderful event. And if anybody in the area next year, I think it's going to be in the beginning of March next year. It's such a fun time. It's such a great thing. And then of course can donate always to St. Jude's. You know, that's how they stay alive. That's how they stay open.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure and get all the links to all of that and make sure it's in my show notes and in the credits. It's super inspiring to hear that, and it's incredible to see you support that. It's really fantastic, and you know, always wishing good health for your daughter.
Thank you. Who you've met?
Yes, of course. You have a beautiful family. You know, all those guys
you.
are great. You know, your brother does amazing things with the Valley Relics Museum.
Yeah.
I'll also put that in the show notes because that is quite the visit.
Such a fun thing. Yeah.
That's a fun day.
It's such a fun day.
And yeah, that's amazing. So I wish you all the continued success, and you know, anything I can do, happy to share any of my resources as well. Well, Lori, thank you very much for being on today. This was an incredible chat with you. I'm really glad we had it. I hope you'll come on again soon. Well, I'm sure you'll have more exciting adventures to share. And I'm just really grateful for your time today, and you sharing your life and your experiences is incredible, the things that you support. So definitely check out the show notes below for all her links, where to find her on social, all the places to donate. And thank you. We'll talk soon.
Thank you so much for having me, Vince. It's been a blast. Always good to hang with you.